Alright, so now we're going to talk about the different terms, okay, and the characteristics of a binomial variable. So if you know the previous one was a bit confusing for you, understand, because the learning curve can be a little bit steep. So now we are actually going to go through very important terms that you need to know that will make things a lot clearer for you, okay, I promise. So first thing is that we know a Bernoulli trial is an experiment, right? An experiment with only two outcomes, success or failure. Now, when we have a Bernoulli trial and then we repeat it n times, right, n number of times in succession. So, you know, like just now, the coin toss, we repeat the Bernoulli trial 3 times in a row, right? We flip, we flip, we flip. That actually becomes a binomial experiment. So a binomial experiment is basically just n number of Bernoulli trials, Bernoulli experiments that happen in succession. Okay, that's basically it. So that's the first thing that I wanted to go through. Okay, so from now onwards, we will say binomial experiment because we don't repeat just once, right? A Bernoulli trial, we don't do it just one time. We do it multiple times in succession, right? So we have n independent trials. Now, a binomial random variable is basically a discrete random variable, with only two outcomes, okay? With only two outcomes. And those two outcomes will be success or failure. So as long as a discrete random variable only has two possible outcomes, right? Success or failure, then we will consider it as a binomial random variable. The reason why it's called binomial is because there's only two possible outcomes, right? And when a discrete random variable has only two possible outcomes, the distribution that it follows is called a binomial distribution. So it has a binomial distribution. That means the different outcomes of a binomial experiment follow a binomial distribution, right? That's where the formula that we learned earlier on, which is n choose x bracket p success x and then p failure n minus x actually come into play over here. Okay, so those are the three important things to actually go through first. So Bernoulli trial, when we repeat n number of times, we get a binomial experiment. Next, when we have a discrete random variable and it only has two possible outcomes, success or failure, it's a very specific kind of random variable, and that is also called the binomial random variable. Next, a binomial distribution is one that is a specific kind of distribution that a binomial random variable will have. So it states there is many different kinds of distributions, and a binomial distribution is just one kind. So what makes a binomial distribution so special is that it only applies to discrete random variables with only two outcomes, and that will be a success or failure condition, right? And what are the three conditions required to be present for something to be considered a binomial random variable or a binomial variable? So this one always tested in exams, so make sure you go and commit this to memory. 1, 2, 3. So each of the n trials are independent of each other. That means they don't affect each other. Okay. Secondly is that there are only two possible outcomes of each trial, right? And what are the two possible outcomes of each trial? That will be your success or failure only. Okay, and then the last one is that the probability of success, so bracket p success, must be constant in each trial. Okay, whenever the question asks you what are the three, and sometimes they might even ask for just two, right? You just need to quote any more of this, right? Depending on the context of the question. If they give you one already, then you cannot quote the same thing, right? You have to quote the other two. But you need to also contextualize it towards the question. So for the example, the context of a coin toss, right? I flip the coin 5 times. So each of the 5 trials are independent of each other. There's only two possible outcomes of each trial: success, which is the heads, or failure, which is the tails. And the probability of getting a head is constant in each trial at probability of 1/3, right? So you have to always contextualize it. But this is basically how you identify whether something can also, this is also how you identify whether a question is asking you a binomial random variable concept or not. So these three things are your guiding points, right? You ask yourself, the trials independent of each other? Are there only two possible outcomes? And is the probability of success a constant, right? And as long as all these three are met at the same time, fulfilled at the same time, you know that this is a binomial random variable concept. Okay, and if not, that's it for this portion over here. In the next video, I will actually go through the different notations associated with this portion so that get you ready to actually go and tackle the questions that you will see in the exams. Alright, and if you've got any other questions, let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.